entrepreneurs wear many hats. Your HR, your product development, your finance. In the early days, maybe you can give us some experience about working with co-packers and outsourcing marketing or branding. How did you decide to keep some things in-house versus outsource others?
This is where Yves and I are going to differ the most. First of all, I'm allergic to stainless steel and white lab coats.
And I love stainless steel. I love stainless steel.
But you know, when you come from a position of scarcity, right, 100 grand to start with, buying equipment and tying up capital versus using my money as a float for inventory turnover and stuff like that, it didn't make sense for me. So I felt like, co-packers were readily available, so I'd outsource that. Plus I wasn't interested nor good at it. Same thing with fulfillment. Use a 3PL, third-party logistics, that would store my product, pick, pack, and ship it, deal with returns, all that stuff like that. And then focus on what we're really good at, which is sales, marketing, people, education. And then my cash could turn over. I could use all my money for inventory and payroll and things that could help me make money versus equipment and let's say facilities that sat there that the clock was ticking on that money, whether I was doing anything or not, right? So for me, that's how I look at it. And I think that's a great way for all cash-strapped startups to start, unless of course you have something like a secret process or it hasn't been done before, like Yves, who's had to create that. That's different. But these days, almost anything is co-packable. So.
Right. I agree with you, Charles. I think there's two different ways of looking at things. So if you have something that is proprietary, and I created the first veggie dog, and I went to the Expo West, and I saw there was another guy who started 6 months after me. He went the way of a co-packer. He went out of business. Why? Because Safeway was co-packing for him. And for the guy who was used to do regular meat hot dog, for them it was all garbage anyway. So the quality control was not there. And therefore, versus your technology, and you know how people were doing that, you became a marketing machine and educating the public. So, and I'm glad that I manufacture, but the downside is capital intensive and a lot of cash. I built a facility in Delta. Not sure I would do that again because you're tying too much cash into a facility. So our new place we're launching right now, I'm leasing because I don't want to put capital, like you said, into. You need to use your cash to grow the business, not tying it in the building. So it's about if you have something that is proprietary, right, that you can scale up yourself, but just as long as you know it's very capital intensive.
Right.
And my Gardein, we had an extrusion technology, again proprietary. We had to, but again, very capital intensive. I would prefer to do like what Charles did, actually, co-packers.
Right.
So much easier if you can control the quality, and then you focus on what you're best at doing.
Right. It's a good point. I have some clients who've taken a hybrid approach. If there's a secret sauce, well, you package up that secret mix and send it to a co-packer. So there are ways you can
Coca-Cola kind of did that with the syrup. They developed the syrup and then they ship it. And Beyond Meat is doing that a little bit. They have a matrix that they ship to different places. Yeah.
So Yves, maybe you can share the story from the early days when you were making, first couple years of Yves, I think it was, and you had an equipment purchase that went a little bit wrong.
Okay. Which one was that?
You said
He's had so many.
what's the 50K that from Winnipeg or something, or does that ring a bell?
The guy who frauded you.
Oh yes, yes. Oh yes. Both they did the homework. Yeah. So, be careful about. It's easy. There's people who create sting all over the place. So I was growing, 50% per year, and need to grow, need to change location, and somebody did this sting on me. They, I bought machinery, and I trusted the person who sold me the machinery before, and the machinery never arrived, and because it never really existed. And entrepreneur are really. I've seen some of my friends going bankrupt. And sometimes we believe in the dream. We believe that whatever we say, we believe our own lie. You've seen entrepreneur, oh no, the cash is coming. It's coming soon. My friend is helping a friend of a friend and a friend. Meanwhile, so this was a story for me. I needed the machinery so bad. And so the alarm was going beep, 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 because I was paying in cash, and cash is not good in business. There's a reason why you pay cash. But I was buying a bankruptcy, but I trusted the guy. So it almost put me out of business. But it was a big lesson for me that, it's okay to have lawyers to look at the paperwork and have proper paperwork. And I tell that to entrepreneur all the time to say, well, he's my best friend. Gee, what kind of contract do you have between the two of you? Well, he's my best friend. I said, no, make sure you have the proper paperwork.
Yeah, that's sound advice. And in terms of, like, both your businesses were innovative and groundbreaking and created new categories effectively that are now nationwide and worldwide. Charles, being innovative, you talk about education and product development, keeping those in-house. How do you create that culture of innovation? Because it has to be more than you if it's ever going to be a big enough enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. So, continuous improvement, sort of that value that you have to always be improving is super critical through the whole company. And I'll give you an example, like Vega One, which was our best-selling product. It was half of our revenue and sort of our hero product. That started off as Vega Whole Food Meal Replacement, became Vega Whole Food Optimizer, and then Vega One. So we basically destroyed our old product and created new product, new PC codes, new formula, new everything 3 times, even though each time it was already the best seller in its category. Because we figured, well, if we do it to ourselves, then someone can't do it to us. And if we sat there on our laurels saying we're number one, yet we knew that there was better ways of doing things, and we just chose not to do it, just hold on to our number one position, rest on our laurels, then we would be discoed by somebody else. So we did it to ourselves. That kind of thinking and being like maniacal about your own self-improvement internally, I don't care about competitors, just about ourselves, I think is super, super critical. And if you look through that lens, you won't let that happen to you. Because you see companies where the incumbents sit in their fat city, owning the world, right? We can think about Blockbuster, we can talk about all these ones.
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry. And then they get freaking the legs cut out of them, right? So I think that way a lot.
Yeah, I have a thinking, if it's not broken, still break it.
Yeah, keep breaking it. Because if you don't break it, someone else will.
Yeah, and I remember when the gluten-free Crave came in, and everybody says, what do you think? And I said, it's going to go sideways the same way
we talked about that.
It's going to go sideways the same way that the Atkins diet went away, the South Beach diet went away. It all went away. And, finally, when it kind of like, it's not going away, and the competitor came with a gluten-free, I said, okay, we're going gluten-free. So, so sometimes the competitor, that's why I strongly believe that competitors are good for you. They raise the bar, and you need to raise the bar. So, but you don't have to wait for them to raise the bar. You should always raise your own bar.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And Ali, you've had some experience with co-packers. I was talking to you a while back, and you're telling me about a specific situation. What should a food entrepreneur look at? How should they look at a co-packer in terms of formalization of agreements?
Yeah, I mean, Yves is preaching to the choir when he says put it on paper. That's certainly something that I would say. I think the food industry in many cases can be a bit of a handshake business sometimes, especially at the early stages when the quantities aren't large and that kind of thing. But my recommendation is always to put a co-packer or a manufacturing agreement in place. It could be as simple as the basics. So how much are you going to pay? What are you going to get? So that when you get a product that's light green instead of the dark green you wanted, you can point to an agreement and say, look, this is what the specifications are going to be. So very, very basic principles of buying and selling. And it can go beyond that to risk allocation. So, a lot of times when you work with a co-packer, you're at their mercy in terms of manufacturing and how they're going to do it. And are they going to have allergens in their facility? Are they going to have another company they're packing for that contaminates your run? So you want to have provisions that say, if somebody gets sick from this product and it wasn't my fault, it's the co-packer's fault, you want something on paper that allows you to go to that co-packer and say, look, you're going to take responsibility for these legal costs and the damages that we've suffered from this recall or whatever the case may be. And your co-packer agreement will cover a bunch of stuff around them retaining samples so you can test. What certifications is their facility going to have? So I think, my recommendation is always, and I agree with Yves on this, is even if you don't have the full-fledged 50-page agreement, have something in place that sets out the basic principles so that you as the entrepreneur can have recourse if something goes wrong, and just so that the parties have a clear record of their intentions, I would say.
The challenge, I think, when you're small is you don't have a lot of leadway. You don't have a lot of power.
Right.
So I'm not sure. You went to see a co-packer, you might have probably had a decent volume. When you're small, you're kind of begging to have a co-packer too because you don't have enough.
We actually had to
volume.
beg for guys to run our stuff, and the first few people I saw wouldn't even run it. Too small.
Yeah.
They all came begging back later on, but I remember how they treated me when I was
I
little.
know.
Right.
And you never forget the people that took a risk on you, hey, when you're
You
early
have to
on.
have somebody that believe in you.
Right.
But the challenge I always had, because it happened to a friend of mine who was doing one of the first soy ice cream like 35 years ago, and he went with a co-packer and they had forgot to clean the vat with soap, so the ice cream tastes a little soapy. And then the co-packer was a big guy and he says, "Yeah, it's fine,
Right.
it's fine, it's
Right.
fine." So you didn't have the power to sue them.
Right. Right.
So it's all depends how big you are.
Yeah.
And so you have to have built a relation, and I would
Right.
say as you get bigger, you have more power.
Right.
But in the beginning, it's about relation.
I totally agree. You can have it all on paper, but if they haven't bought into supporting you,
Yeah.
and they don't believe in you, and they're taking, then you can't afford to act on that agreement anyways.
Exactly.
And I think it's a good way to end this discussion in terms of, you guys started off as small businesses, and it's your key partners, whether it's co-packers or suppliers or whatever, that really believed and took the chance. And I think business people don't forget that, right? And I think you guys are stories of that in terms of the loyalty I'm sure you showed the other way once things.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.